pretty cool segment here. So what I'm going to do is give you my 5 NFL teams guaranteed to make the postseason. Guaranteed. It's going to happen. If it doesn't happen, I want you all to call me out next January on Twitter, in the comments, whatever the case may be. So without any further ado, my first team guaranteed to make the NFL playoffs, the Minnesota Vikings, with Super Bowl odds of 12-1 to get it done. And first of all, there is no reason for the $84 million man, Kirk Cousins, to struggle with this team. And I'll talk about him later in another segment. But we're talking about the Vikings here specifically because of that defense and how good it is from secondary to defensive line. They have the league's best defense, in my opinion. I have zero concerns about that side of the ball. I think they will be just fine, barring injuries, of course. The secondary will be balling out. They got Xavier Rhodes, Harrison Smith, an elite safety. Andrew Sandejo is coming off a good year. Maybe Mackenzie Alexander will have a breakout year, and that will just be all that much more better. And then the linebacking core, Anthony Barr, Eric Kendricks, they're great as well. They could even sign Michael Kendricks to bolster that core too. We'll see if that actually comes to fruition. Then the front line, which is just straight up disruptive. Linval Joseph, Sheldon Richardson, Everson Griffin. You tell me how you're going to block those guys. I don't know if you can. And the San Francisco 49ers will get the first crack at the Minnesota Vikings because Niners, Vikings, week 1, 1 o'clock. That's probably going to be the big early window game. Then you go to the offensive side for Minnesota. 2 prolific receivers in Stephon Diggs and Adam Thielen, along with a quality tight end in Kyle Rudolph, who I like a lot. Dalvin Cook is coming back from injury as well. So all those pieces are there for Kirk Cousins to be successful. As you take a look at some of the key contributors here for the Vikings, you know, it's no coincidence that I have 3 defenders there. Xavier Rhodes, Harrison Smith, and Linval Joseph. I want to get a couple secondary players and a defensive lineman as well. Then you look at the coaching staff. Of course, Zimmer is still there, but they have John DeFilippo now as the offensive coordinator. And I've talked about him a lot of times on this program because I am a big fan of what he does and what he did with the Philadelphia Eagles in coaching up Carson Wentz and then dealing with the adversity of losing Wentz to injury and then still coaching up Nick Foles to a Super Bowl 52 victory. So love that pick up there with John DeFilippo going to Minnesota. Now, the NFC North will be a dogfight. And I expect the Packers to be tough yet again. The Bears are going to be better, especially on that defensive side. They'll be scary good with Vic Fangio calling plays. The Lions won't be an easy out either. But somebody has to win this division. And I think the Minnesota Vikings are going to do it. And I want to put a bow on Kirk Cousins here. The pressure is on him to live up to that massive contract. We've seen this situation happen so many times. Big fat contracts happen, and then the player does not pan out in terms of return on investment. Kirk Cousins is going to have to buck that trend because we've seen it a few times before. I'll point to my guy, Joe Flacco, who certainly did that after getting that big fat contract, after winning the Super Bowl and not really panning out all that well in the years after, except for maybe 2014. So Kirk was the golden ticket of free agency, the white whale, if you will, among the quarterbacks. He has the pieces around him to be successful. Offensive line needs a little work, but other than that, I think Cousins can take this team to a top 2 seed. So not even just winning the NFC North. We're talking about a bye in the NFL playoffs. But all that aside, I am guaranteeing you, you will see this team in mid-January, in late January, and perhaps even February. All right, so the Minnesota Vikings are team number 1. Next team, guaranteed to make the postseason, Tennessee Titans. Talked about them a few times before because I'm in love with the Tennessee Titans. I love what they have on offense. If you guys watch my program a lot, you know I am a big fan of ground and pound football, and then play action off of that is the safest way to play offense. It's literally so simple. Good offensive line, run block, run the football, play action, open receivers down the field. If every NFL team could do that, they would. The Tennessee Titans can do that. Why? because they have a great running back duo in Derrick Henry and Dion Lewis. That sets the tone from the start. They have a balanced offensive line with Josh Klein, Ben Jones at center. Taylor Lewan is there at tackle, Jack Conklin as well. A couple of feisty tackles at that. All right, so the offensive line is there. The running back duo is there. So the run game is going to happen for Tennessee. So the Titans should, in essence, be able to control the line of scrimmage on the offensive side. That, in turn, opens up the pass game off this play action here by Mariota, looking for the likes of Rashard Matthews, Corey Davis, Tawan Taylor, if he can pan out for them going into the next season. If you have linebackers coming up on all these play action plays, you're going to have open receivers down the field. It's just kind of a fact. If you played Madden before and you run the football well and you do the play action, you're going to find open receivers. Now, on the defensive side, I think that front seven can control the line of scrimmage too. Jarrell Casey, Benny Logan, Daquan Jones. These guys are good, especially Casey. Derek Morgan, Wesley Woodyard, Brian Orakpo, yeah, they're old, but they're still playing at a very solid level. And oh, by the way, first-round pick Rashaan Evans, who could be the future of the linebacking core for them. And you got head coach Mike Vrabel, a former unbelievable linebacker in his own right, coaching up Rashaan Evans. So it's just like evidence point after evidence point after evidence point in terms of why the Tennessee Titans will be making the playoffs. You look at the secondary, too. You bring in Malcolm Butler. He can make plays. I really like Adoree Jackson. Played really well in his rookie season. Kevin Byard, as good as they come at the safety position, and we never talk about him. So in terms of the division, that too will be a dogfight, kind of like the NFC North. The Jaguars are going to be right in the thick of things. The Houston Texans are going to be a tough team as well, but I don't think they're going to the postseason. Too many offensive line issues. And then the Colts, I mean, if Andrew Luck is healthy, they won't be an easy out, but of course probably won't be a playoff contender. The Titans will either win the division or earn a wild card berth, but they will be going to the postseason. And I think it's likely that we get two teams out of the AFC South going to the playoffs. All right, so I talked about one NFC team, one AFC team. Let's go back to the NFC and my guarantees here to make the postseason. Talking about the New Orleans Saints now. Speaking of a balanced offense, the run game for New Orleans is a huge blessing. Why? Because you can keep Drew Brees fresh. You don't have to utilize him as much. He doesn't have to throw the football 55 to 60 times to win in a shootout. You got Alvin Kamara, the reigning offensive rookie of the year. Mark Ingram, who will be out for the first 4 games. That's totally fine. Making up one of the better running back duos in the league. And then you got 6th-round pick Boston Scott, who could make some noise as well. The offensive line headlined by Teron Armstead and Andrews Pete and Ryan Ramczyk, who I like a lot, young player at tackle. Fantastic in pass protection, really good run blocking group too. And then there's Drew Brees, coming off yet another great season, led the NFL in completion percentage and yards per attempt. 23 touchdowns to just 8 interceptions. His fewest since 2004, by the way, in terms of interceptions. Didn't throw the football as much, didn't have to. And that's how it should be for the Saints going forward here. Now, the Saints, if needed, can win in shootouts. And I think that's the beauty of this offense, how you can run the football with Ingram and Kamara, do the play action down the field to the likes of Coleman and Michael Thomas and Cam Meredith. But let's say it's a shootout and the run game just isn't working for a game or two and the defense is tired and all that. You put it on Drew Brees to throw the football 45 to 50 times, and if you can do that with him a couple of games a year, I'm sure he'll have no problem being successful in doing so. So that's kind of the thing I like the most about the Saints on that offensive side. And then on the defensive side, I like it. Cornerback Patrick Robinson coming off an elite year with the Philadelphia Eagles slot corner there, joining the likes of Ken Crawley and Marshawn Lattimore, the defensive rookie of the year. Lattimore was unbelievably good, like a true shutdown corner. Demario Davis comes on over from the Jets to play at inside linebacker there. He should help out a lot in that area of the defense. And then the front line should be disruptive too, with Marcus Davenport, whom the Saints gave up the world for some reason to get him. Cam Jordan, Sheldon Rankins, and then Alex Okafor. All good players in that front seven. So in terms of the NFC South, I could see 3 playoff teams yet again. Falcons, Panthers, Saints. But the team I'm most confident in are the New Orleans Saints because I just think they are the most balanced on both sides out of all 3 of those teams. But the Falcons are a very close second. The Panthers are kind of a bit of a gap there at number 3. But the Saints, I am guaranteeing, will make the postseason heading into 2018 and in January. All right, let's go to the AFC South yet again, because I got another team for you guys for my guarantees to make the playoffs, the Jacksonville Jaguars. So the Jaguars have supplanted the Seattle Seahawks as that young defensive team that has to win now before all of their players become really expensive, right? That's who the Jaguars are now. And they own an incredible defensive front to start things off. Malik Jackson, Calais Campbell played out of their minds in 2017. And I don't see that changing anytime soon in 2018. Yannick Ngakoue is doing College Park proud. Maryland faithful there, coming off a really good season in his own right. So you can't block this team. You also can't throw against them. Jalen Ramsey and A.J. Boye are a top 3 cornerback pairing in the NFL, maybe even the best in the league. You can make that argument. Tashawn Gibson, Barry Church played really well last year. And so you got a good safety tandem, good cornerback tandem. Yeah, they lost Colvin, slot corner. They can fill that void. That's fine. They got rookie Ronnie Harrison, too, who could perhaps get some reps at safety. I'm expecting a big season from one player in particular, Miles Jack. Jack was one of the best coverage linebackers last season. His coverage grade of 85.3 ranked 8th among linebackers, and he ranked 2nd in cover snaps per target, cover snaps per reception, and yards per cover snap in 2017. All of that according to Pro Football Focus. In essence, the guy was unbelievably good in defending the pass. And I think he's only going to get better, and I think he's going to be a really important key piece to that defense there for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Didn't even talk about Telvin Smith, who came out of nowhere and had an elite year at linebacker as well. So you try to point out a weakness for the Jacksonville Jaguars, you could make the argument that it is on the interior of that defensive line, but they're getting Taven Bryan there to help things out and to stop the run a little better. They weren't very good last year. So the Jaguars will win in spite of Blake Bortles. And that's kind of my main argument here. You run the football with Andrew Norwell and Leonard Fournette, guard, running back, respectively, and you keep the ball out of Blake Bortles' hands. And look, I mean, the Jaguars have Dante Moncrief, too, who I'm very high on, and I think he can make some plays and help out Bortles a little bit in the passing game. Jaguars check in, and my 5 teams guaranteed to make the postseason. And with that, let's get to the final team on the list here. And it's kind of interesting considering I've been bashing on them for the last 60 episodes of the show. The New England Patriots, 5-1 odds to win the Super Bowl. And maybe this is more of an indictment on how bad the AFC East is. Somebody has to win that division. It's going to be the New England Patriots. It's been a decade since somebody else did it. We're talking about the 2008 Miami Dolphins, for crying out loud, when Brady got hurt that year. So that's kind of where I'm at. But I want to talk about the other teams first. Dolphins have the potential to be the worst in the NFL. I have no clue what they're doing over there. The Jets have to figure out their quarterback situation, and they're probably a couple years away. And the Bills have Josh Allen and A.J. McCarron. And they could end up being the same people by the time their careers are over. So they're not beating the Patriots. So the Patriots are going to win the AFC East. So in that vein, they're guaranteed to make the postseason. So that's my logic there. But as for the team itself, look, Tom Brady, reigning MVP, the greatest quarterback of all time. I will say that here on air. I've said it before. I don't see him slowing down this year. He's not eroding like Peyton Manning did with the Denver Broncos. And eventually he will, but he's just not doing that right now. So you got Tom Brady, obviously. Julian Edelman coming back is really important as well. Chris Hogan is a solid player too. I want to see something from Malcolm Mitchell. I'm seeing a lot in the Patriots media that maybe he can be a breakout player for them. We'll see what happens, but keep an eye on that name there for the Patriots. I really don't know what to think of this running back core other than to characterize it as classic Patriots. James White, Brandon Bolden, Rex Burkhead, Mike Gillislee, Jeremy Hill, Sony Michel. I mean, who's going to get the luxury of carries? I don't think any one running back will get a very hefty amount, and I think that's what the Patriots want to do. By the way, the Patriots don't care about your fantasy football team. It's quite clear about that. So then, of course, there's Rob Gronkowski coming back, which means a lot to this team. And then the defense appears to be in solid shape, especially that secondary. I think the secondary will be really good. You got the McCourties in the back end, as well as Stephon Gilmore, too. Like the addition of Adrian Claiborne on that defensive line. Claiborne played well for the Falcons last year. Should help in pass rushing. So all of that aside, you can talk about how good the Patriots are, but it's just been death, taxes, and the Patriots winning the AFC East for the last decade. I don't expect that to change this year. So the Patriots are my biggest guarantee to make the postseason in 2018. Here's the rundown of my 5 teams. Patriots, Jaguars, Saints, Titans, and the Minnesota Vikings. Those 5 teams will be playing in January. Book it. Seal it.